Good morning, everybody. I got my coffee, I got my vape. Let's talk a little. So today I want to talk about negotiating again. Seems to be a popular subject. This one is going to be about negotiating like a duck. Not a squirrel, but a duck. What does that mean? I don't know. Let's take a sip and think about it. Okay, you've probably heard this before if you've heard anything about negotiation, and that is to be a duck. And what exactly does that mean? Well, if you look at a duck, if you've ever fed ducks, especially if you're beside a creek or a river, or even on a pond or a lake, you can see that they are calm above water. They're just kind of la-da-da-da-da-da, and they're going about their business, even if they have little ducklings with them. But below the water where you can't see, those feet are just moving like crazy. They're just going and going and going and going and going and going and going. You can never tell what a duck is going to do. They may seem like everything is going great, and all of a sudden, they just take off. They're gone. Or they'll just change direction without giving you any indication except possibly a glance. They're always watching you. Even though it doesn't seem like it, it seems like they're paying attention to their own business. You can tell if you start moving around or if you start moving adjacent to where they are, they will start to change their path. And they may not even look at you, but sometimes they do. They have a take it or leave it attitude. If the environment around them becomes uncomfortable for them, then they will just take off and they'll go to another part of the lake, or they'll go to another lake or another body of water. They don't care. They may return to that one again, but they're not willing to stay there if the situation goes beyond their comfort. Also, if you've ever fed ducks, especially on land, they'll come over and they may be blasting out really loud and talking. I think that mostly has to do with talking to each other. But if you throw a piece of bread out into a group of ducks, then they are going to be quick to grab that bread. And all the other ones will come over to where that is, and they're going to be sitting there watching you to see if you throw in the exact same place. But they're quick to grab because they know if they don't do it, somebody else will. So let's talk about the calm above water. How does that relate to negotiating? Well, they seem to be separated from their emotion. Now, I know they have emotion, but you can't really tell unless you really piss them off. They seem to just be calmly going about their business. Now, while they're being calm above water, again, their feet are moving like crazy. They are observing everything. They're analyzing the situation. They're making quick decisions. They're strategizing where they're going to go, what they're going to do, what their goals are, and they're making those decisions on the spur of the moment. Now, I'm not going to talk a whole bunch about the squirrels, but I thought it'd be nice to have something to compare to. Squirrels also don't show much emotion, but as opposed to ducks, they do work off of fear. And you can tell that really quick. They are always watching. They will jet one direction or the other, and they'll change directions on how comfortable they are in a moment's notice. That is a detriment to them a lot of times because I'm sure you have all experienced the driving down the road and you're trying to avoid a squirrel in the road, or they're going to cross the road right in front of you and they could have made it to the other side, but they changed their mind at the last minute and decide to go back because they're too fearful, and they wind up going right back in your path and they get hit. So don't be a squirrel in negotiations. That's the last time I'm going to be talking about these guys. So I'm going to talk about a couple rules. Now, these aren't written down anywhere, I don't think. I haven't read them or seen them anywhere. These are rules that I use. And before we do that, let's take another sip because I gotta wake up. So my number one rule is he who succumbs to emotion loses. And if you have emotion, the other person is going to see that and they're going to recognize that. We're going to get to that in just a minute. Now, I don't classify laughing, being happy, and things like that as emotion. I know technically happiness is an emotion, but I'm thinking more of strong emotions like fear and even love can definitely hinder you while you are doing the negotiation. Emotion activates on the right side of your brain. That right side of your brain cannot communicate, it can't speak, it can't make decisions. It controls the emotions. What happens when you're thinking from the right side of your brain is you cannot communicate effectively. You don't analyze the situation effectively, and you don't make decisions that are oriented to your goals. Emotion can be controlled, but it takes lots of internal focus. And when you're negotiating, you need to be outwardly focused. You need to be focused on the other person. You need to be focused on your goals, and you need to be focused on the developing negotiation, because you're going to have to make quick and strategic decisions as you go through. You just can't think clearly when you're emotional. I like to call it emotional stupidity. My number 2 rule is that the most confident usually wins. I want to say wins every single time, but that's an absolute, and I can't think of any situations unless there was a big mistake made. But I know for a fact that if you even appear to be confident, that gives you a major upper hand. Now, if that confidence is intentional, or if it's just inferred and the other person sees that confidence, that could tend to intimidate them. Intimidation is actually a really good negotiation technique. You have to be careful how you use it. If you use it as a weapon, then the other person is going to see that, and that's not going to have the outcome that you want. A confident person takes calculated risks. They know the parameters. They know what they want to get out of the situation. They know how far they can go, and they're good at estimating how far they can take. And so they're not afraid. Fear is going to be coming up a lot in this, because fear is the biggest thing that is going to work against you in negotiation. So that confident person is really good at keeping their goals in view the whole time. They have a take it or leave it attitude, and they control the conversation a lot better. They're comfortable with the long silences. They're comfortable with generating conversation, asking questions, relaxing the other person, making it a fun situation for the other person, which helps bring their guard down, and that's important. So we're going to be drinking a lot of coffee on this one because I am really tired today. So let's take that other sip. So I hope you have this concept of being a duck down, being calm, collected, unemotional, not without emotion, but without emotion controlling you. I think they call it stoicism. But at the same time, your brain is going and you're thinking about things and you know what you're doing. So the next is, what do you do before you get started? Before you get started in negotiating, and I'm going to relate this to reselling because, again, this is a reselling channel, and that's what I do most of my negotiations nowadays with, is you need to know your parameters. You need to know how much money you have to spend, how much you're willing to pay for this item. You need to know your profit margin. You need to know how much this thing is going to cost me to actually sell through shipping, through time, cleaning up, and listing, and what value you're going to be able to get out of it, both high and low. What's the best and what's the lowest? Now that's going to take some research and some practice. If you can do research beforehand, that's awesome. With estate sales, I have that ability through estatesales.net that I can actually look at the pictures and I can figure out which items I'm interested in. I can get on eBay, sold items, and I can see what they're selling for. And if it's something that I don't know anything about, I can do research on it. So I know more about that item, especially with things that have multiple pieces. Make sure that they're all complete. But you can't do that with yard sales. So the best thing to do is you need to spend your time when you're not at them preparing. You can go to the solds, you can search, matchbooks. Find out which sold from highest to lowest. Find out why those sold. Do a little bit of rabbit holing and do some research to find out the different aspects of that item. Watch the BOLO videos, which means be on the lookout for it. And the rest of it just takes experience. As you go through, you get situations under your belt, you will be able to recognize the things that are going to make you money. Now that's going to change because the market changes. So you need to keep up on that and keep tweaking your knowledge base. And one of the biggest things is you need to know, is this really a negotiating situation? I had a lot of times where I am thinking of a price and the seller throws out a number and it's the same price. Well, that's not a negotiation, that's an agreement. If you use any of these techniques after that point, then you're probably going to be muddying the waters and you might actually wind up losing the sale. You also need to know if you're in an unwinnable scenario. One of the biggest things is does that person actually want to sell this? You find that at yard sales particularly all the time. Somebody may put it out there, but they really don't want to sell it. Their spouse might have really badgered them to talk them into it, or they need money and they thought they could do it, but they're collecting this thing. They have this love for this item and they really don't want to part with it. Sometimes you can get past that. That takes another kind of negotiation, but you need to recognize at what point you're just not going to be able to get this thing at a price you can sell it for. And that's the other thing. You've got people out there that are in love with their items and they think that they should be able to get the highest dollar possible, which they should be able to get the highest dollar possible, but their idea of possible is way out. Now they're selling to other people that actually are shoppers. And so in those scenarios, they possibly can. But you've got people that they spent $400 on something 50 years ago and they've used it and they've enjoyed it. Well, they want to get that $400 out. And I'm sorry, even if you just bought it at Walmart and you put it on the sale, it's lowered in value. It's not nearly worth the value that you first paid for it. Also, they'll get on eBay and they will get the price of what it's going to pay for without realizing that if they're buying on eBay, they've got some guarantees and they can actually return that item. So I'm not going to get into that rabbit hole because that would definitely be a rant. Now you're at that yard sale or estate sale or wherever you are, and you see the item that you want to purchase. Now, before you get into negotiation, you need to set that other person at ease. Get them to drop their walls, because most people go into a negotiation thinking that it's going to be a battle. This person's going to try to take advantage of me. I'm not going to be strong enough to get what I want for it. All of these things, or they may just not like people or not be comfortable around people. So the best thing to do is to set them at ease so they're comfortable and you can just have a fun conversation. So smile, be friendly. I talk about this all the time. Tell jokes, find something in common with them. It could be their pet. It could be the weather. It could be the neighborhood. I wouldn't get into religion and politics unless you're absolutely sure that you share that. But it definitely could be a passion in what they are selling. If they are a collector, the best way to get on their good side is be passionate about their collection. Ask them questions. If you're excited about that as well, then that's going to really help. Because somebody who loves an item, they would much rather give it to somebody who's actually going to appreciate it than somebody who's going to just resell it. So that's set at ease. One of the mistakes a lot of people get into is they figure, if I bring the value of this item down in the seller's eyes, then they will be more willing to give it to me at a lower price. And that can work a lot of times, but I don't suggest it. If you start degrading their item, a lot of times you're just going to piss them off and you're definitely not going to set them at ease. They're going to throw up other walls. On the flip side, you definitely don't want to be too interested because if they see that you want it more than they want it, then it's going to be really hard to get them down on their price. And I think the biggest one is to be prepared to walk away, that take it or leave it. You've got your parameters. You've got a really good idea of what you have to get this item for to be able to make your profit. And if it goes beyond that parameter, then just be prepared to walk away. Guess what? There's another yard sale right down the street. And you may not find that item. You may not even find that item ever. But there's lots and lots of other things you can make money at. And really, if that item isn't going to make profit for you, then you're just collecting, which is fine. But then you need to alter your negotiation because now you're just a shopper. I'm going to take another sip. You want to? So one thing to keep in the back of your head that's going to help you control your emotions is to realize that this negotiation is not going to make it or break it for you. It may seem like you're never going to find this thing. I could make $1 million if this person would just give it to me at a decent price that I can afford. But realistically, there's no shortage of opportunities out there. It may not seem like it at the time, but if you're going to be doing this for a while, you're going to see that you're going to come across a lot of the same things. You're going to have those great buys and great wins. And you may even make a YouTube video about it. We're all going to love it and watch it and be on the lookout for it. And you're going to make some things that are just going to be bread and butter and make you a little bit of money. And you're going to make some mistakes. You're going to make those things that you really should not have bought. And you know what? We all do it. And it's kind of fun to share those stories as well. No matter how cool this thing is, if it doesn't fit your parameters, it's not a good deal for you. Think like a business person. And I would suggest not making the purchase unless you want to collect it. There are some scenarios that I know the market well enough to know that this item has gone down in price. I know the reasons why. I know the market will recover. I have the resources that I can sit on this item, and I'll go ahead and buy it, and I'll wait for the market to recover. There was a big thing that I had to overcome to be able to get the emotion out of the negotiation, and that is to realize that it's not a competition. It really isn't. If it is a competition for you and you're just in it to win it, then you're not in this negotiation for the right reasons as a business person. Being too competitive in a negotiation can definitely cause your emotions to take over, alienate the other person, and it can cause the negotiation to fall. Negotiation is a learned skill. Nobody ever comes by this naturally. Now, given they may learn negotiation from birth. You know, babies do learn negotiation. They learn that if they cry at a certain point, then someone's going to come in and change their diapers. They realize that if they spit that food out a number of times, you may give them something else, or you may just give up. And they definitely realize that if they ask you 1,000,000 times, you're going to break down and say yes. So negotiation, it's a learned skill. Like anything else, it takes practice and self-development. The self-development is important because remember the confidence? That has to come from inside you. So whatever's keeping you from being confident, you need to figure that out. And if you fix it, then you're going to be more confident. You're going to go into negotiations more confident. And the other person is going to see that right away. My biggest point is to keep at it and you will become good. It may take a while. I've talked about strategies for development and growth, and all those can be used to help you get better at this. But the biggest thing is to just get out there and just negotiate. It doesn't have to be about an item that you're trying to buy. It could be about where you want to eat. It could be about anything. Now, don't be argumentative all the time. I had that problem too, and people really hate that. You really chase people away, except the wrong people who also like to argue a lot. So the biggest takeaway of this is if it doesn't work out, be the duck and just fly off to the next pond. With that, let's take one more sip. How about ya? Well, if you're new to my channel, please take a look around and see if there's anything that you like. If you do like it, please think about maybe subscribing and sharing this with somebody else who will also enjoy it. Hit the like button, hit the dislike button. I don't care. It helps me to figure out what I'm doing right or doing wrong. Hit the ringy dingy thing so you're notified next time I make a video. Definitely comment. Please let me know your negotiation strategies. Let me know if you've tried this and it didn't work for you, or if you've tried it or it did work for you, or if you just want to talk about ducks. And as always, no matter what tune that life plays you, always find your groove. Get out there, practice that negotiation. You're going to be great. And I hope to be able to negotiate with you sometime.